The monster in the glass cage. They called her the monster. Not because she attacked anyone, not because she spoke evil things, but because of how she stared, silent, cold, glowing eyes watching every move like a trapped predator. She sat still, cross-legged, inside a glass cage, deep in the alien prison's lower levels. No alien dared to go near. Not even the guards. They only dropped food through a metal slot and ran. Even the machines that cleaned the floors stayed far away from her corner. She hadn't spoken in years. No one knew her real name. No one knew what planet she came from. Her file said, Level 7 threat. Do not engage. But that was just a code for fear. Rumors said she once crushed a captain's skull with her mind. Others said she made a telepath scream until his brain exploded. The council didn't want her dead. They wanted her forgotten. But today, something different happened. A human arrived. His name was Daniel. Short brown hair, brown eyes, quiet face. He wasn't a soldier, not a scientist, just a volunteer from Earth, sent to build trust between humans and the galactic prison system. He was supposed to study alien behavior, write reports, maybe help clean some data files. Instead, on his first day, he did something no one expected. He walked straight to the cage. The guards shouted after him, "Stop! Not that one. Don't go near her." But Daniel didn't listen. He looked at her through the thick glass. She stared back, unmoving, her silver hair messy, her skin pale with soft purple patterns, eyes glowing gold. She didn't blink. Daniel stepped closer. "Hello," he said. No answer. She tilted her head slightly. "My name is Daniel," he continued, voice calm. "I'm from Earth." Again, no reply. But she didn't growl. She didn't charge at the glass. She just watched. Daniel placed his hand against the glass. A pause. Then, slowly, she raised her hand too, and touched the glass from the inside. Every camera in the room zoomed in. Every alien watching from the control room froze. It was the first time in 7 years she had moved without being forced. First time she had reacted. Then something even stranger happened. She spoke. Her voice was soft, dry, like wind over broken bones. "You are not afraid." Daniel blinked. "Should I be?" Her lips twitched. Not a smile. Not yet, but something close. Guards stormed in. Red lights flashed. They grabbed Daniel, pulled him away, shouted at him like he was insane. "Do you know what that thing is?" One guard hissed. "She's killed minds stronger than yours." But Daniel didn't fight them. He just looked over his shoulder as they dragged him away. The girl inside the glass cage was still watching him. And now, she was smiling. Later, in the staff quarters, everyone talked about it. "Did you see that?" She touched the glass. She spoke to him. He should have been dead. But Daniel didn't feel fear. He felt curious. Something about her didn't seem like a monster. She looked tired, broken, like someone who had been alone for too long. He remembered her words. "You are not afraid." He wasn't. Not of her. Next morning, Daniel returned to the cage. The guards didn't try to stop him this time. They watched from far away, hands on their stun weapons, ready to act. The glass cage shimmered in the low blue lights. She was there, sitting again, watching the door. When Daniel walked in, she stood up. She waited. "May I come closer?" Daniel asked. A pause. Then she nodded. Daniel stepped close again, just like before. No fear in his steps. No judgment in his eyes. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She looked down. For the first time, she seemed unsure. "I had one," she whispered. "But they took it." Daniel sat on the floor, just outside the cage wall. "Then I'll help you remember," he said. She tilted her head. "Why?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because no one should live in a cage forever." And this time, her smile reached her eyes. The monster in the glass cage was no longer just a story. Something had changed. and the galaxy would never forget the human who dared to walk in. She speaks only to him. The next day, Daniel came back. No one told him to. No one stopped him either. The alien guards didn't dare go near the cage, but they watched from behind the glass walls, whispering among themselves. The human was strange. Foolish, maybe, but now, something about him made them curious too. He wasn't like the others. The monster had spoken to him. No one else. Just him. She was already sitting when Daniel entered. Same spot. Same glowing eyes. But this time, she was waiting. Her hair was combed. Sort of, the best she could with her fingers. Her back straighter. Her stare softer. Daniel smiled gently. He brought a small device with him. A music player from Earth. It played soft piano sounds, the kind that could calm a storm if it listened long enough. He placed it on the floor just outside the glass cage. Her eyes flicked to the device, then to him. "What is that?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a breath. "It's music," Daniel said, "from my world." Music. She repeated the word like it was strange in her mouth. "We had that too. Before. The way she said it carried pain. Something deeper than the cuts on her arms or the bruises under her skin. Daniel sat down. "Do you want to listen?" She didn't speak. She just moved closer, right to the edge of the glass. The music played, a slow, simple tune. And she closed her eyes. No one had ever seen her do that. "They call you a monster," Daniel said softly. "But I don't believe them." Her eyes opened slowly. "Because you are foolish," she said. "Maybe," Daniel shrugged. "Or maybe. I see you're just alone." A long silence. Then she touched the glass again, just like yesterday. "My name was Leora," she whispered. Daniel blinked. "Leora." It sounded beautiful. "They took my voice," she said. "But it grew back. They took my wings. They won't grow back." He looked at her carefully. "Wings?" She nodded once. "My people were not born for cages. We flew through gas storms and sang to the stars. But now, I sleep with chains around my ankles." Daniel's heart tightened. "Why did they lock you here?" Her eyes narrowed. Her glow dimmed a little. "Because I saw what they wanted to hide," she said. Before he could ask more, alarms blared suddenly. Red lights flashed across the hallway. A group of tall aliens in black armor marched down the corridor. "Council officials." Daniel stood up quickly. "Stay back from the glass," one shouted. They opened a side wall, something Daniel hadn't noticed before, and pushed a long, sharp metal device into the cage. It made a humming sound, bright with electric energy. Leora hissed, backing away. "No," Daniel yelled. "What are you doing?" "She's responding only to you," one of the armored aliens said. "You will stay away. We will study her reaction to others now." They turned the energy spear toward her chest. Her glow flickered. She didn't fight, but she didn't look afraid either. Daniel ran forward. "You touch her again, and you'll prove you're the monsters." The guards held him back. The alien with the spear paused. Leora stared at Daniel, then did something none of them expected. She raised her hand, and the spear shattered. No one saw her move. No sound. No blast. Just a quiet moment, then pieces of metal floating in the air like dust. The armored aliens fell to the ground, screaming, holding their heads. Blood dripped from their ears. But Daniel, he felt nothing. Just calm. Just Leora, standing in the center of her cage, looking only at him. "I told you," she said. "You are not like the others." Later, in the upper halls, the council held a secret meeting. "The human is a problem," one alien said. "She's bonded to him." "He must be separated," said another, "before it's too late." But not everyone agreed. "Or used," one whispered. "Let him go deeper. If she tells him secrets, we listen." Back in the lower prison, Daniel sat outside the cage again. Leora had returned to her usual place, but her hands were shaking. They will hurt you because of me, she said. Let them try, Daniel replied. You're not afraid. He shook his head. Not of you. She looked at him, truly looked. They think I'm a weapon, she said. But if I must be one, I will protect you. Daniel smiled, even though his heart was heavy. He didn't understand why, but he knew one thing now. She had chosen him. And that choice would change everything. The human who tamed the untamable. No one dared call her a prisoner now. They still kept her in a cage. But it no longer felt like they were guarding her. It felt like they were guarding everyone else from her. But she didn't rage anymore. She didn't scream. She didn't throw her body at the glass walls or send guards into madness like before. No, Leora was quiet now. Quiet because she waited for him. Daniel had become part of her world. Every day, he sat by the glass wall. Sometimes he brought old earth books, sometimes small colorful flowers from the upper deck gardens, sometimes just stories about blue skies, oceans, and birds that sang instead of screamed. And Leora listened, always. She still didn't trust the others. Not the guards, not the council watchers behind hidden cameras, but Daniel. She let him come close. She even let him place his hand through the new force field door. Soft and flickering, not hard glass anymore. Experimental, they said. Only possible because she allowed it. And one day, while he was telling her a story about earth forests, Leora reached forward and brushed his hair back from his face. The room behind the cameras gasped. A being who once turned telepaths into bleeding husks was now playing with a human's hair. Outside the prison chamber, the mood was darker. This is dangerous, one council observer said. No, another replied. This is useful. She speaks to him, trusts him. Through him, we can understand her, maybe even control her. And if we can't? No one answered. Meanwhile, Daniel noticed something strange. The other guards had started watching him more closely, following him down hallways, recording his time with Leora. They asked questions that didn't feel like questions. Did she tell you about her powers? Do you know what her people were planning before she was captured? Has she mentioned the awakening? Daniel didn't answer, not because he was hiding anything, but because he was starting to realize they weren't protecting anyone. They were afraid. Afraid of what she might say, and what he might do with that truth. One night, Daniel found a data pad left outside his room. No name, just blinking red letters. They're going to erase her memory tomorrow. She knows too much. Protect her. His blood turned cold. He didn't sleep that night. The next day, Daniel entered the chamber earlier than usual. Leora was curled in a corner, eyes dim, energy low. They hurt me again, she said without looking up. Daniel rushed to her side, crouching just outside the force field. What did they do? Dream knives, she whispered. They put things in my mind, try to cut my memories. They want me to forget. I won't let them, he said firmly. Leora slowly lifted her head. Then we must leave. Those words changed everything. Daniel felt it deep inside, like a heavy door swinging open. Leave? How? Leora touched the floor, drew small lines with her glowing finger. A map. Corridors, doorways, hidden exits. There is a tunnel beneath this place, she said. They forgot it when they rebuilt. My people used it once, long ago. But the force field, Daniel whispered. How do you escape that? She looked at him, and for the first time smiled fully. I don't need to escape it, she said. I let it exist. The realization hit him like a shockwave. She had never been trapped. She allowed it. And now, she was choosing not to. Later that night, Daniel sneaked into the control room using a stolen clearance badge. He disabled a single camera. Just one. The one inside her chamber. For 10 minutes only. That's all he dared. He returned quickly. Leora stood waiting, eyes brighter now. He handed her a small tool. An old Earth-made signal jammer. Just in case, he said. But before he could turn away, she reached out and touched his face gently. "You are kind," she said, "and that is dangerous." "Why?" "Because they will want to break you," she whispered. "And I will not allow it." Her glow pulsed softly. "You are mine now, Daniel, and if they touch you, I will burn through their sky." He didn't know what to say. His heart beat too fast, not from fear, but something else, something deeper. What Daniel didn't know was that outside the chamber, someone had seen everything. A silent observer, higher than the council, watching from a ship hidden in orbit. He turned off the feed, leaned back in his chair, and smiled. "The human is the key," he said. "Prepare the extraction team. If the girl escapes, he must be brought to us alive." "What about her?" asked the officer beside him. The commander smiled again. "If she tries to protect him, then we'll know just how powerful she really is." Inside the cage, Leora closed her eyes and whispered something ancient under her breath. A word from a language that hadn't been spoken in centuries. Daniel didn't understand it, but the stars above them heard, and they began to shift. Whispers of escape. The prison had become too quiet, too still, as if the walls themselves were listening. Daniel moved carefully now. Every hallway, every corner felt heavier than before. Cameras blinked faster, guards whispered more, and his badge didn't work on doors it used to. He wasn't imagining it. Someone was watching him, but he didn't stop visiting her. Leora had begun to change, not just her voice or mood, but something inside her glow. Her energy had grown warmer near Daniel, calmer. But when others came near, even in silence, her gold light darkened into cold violet, like a storm waiting to break loose. They were afraid of her. But now, they were afraid of him too. That night, Daniel waited in the shadows outside the archives room. He had memorized the patrols. He had hacked the side door using an old Earth trick. Magnets and heat. Simple. Quiet. Inside, the room buzzed with low hums of machines. Thousands of files from hundreds of prisoners, going back centuries. But Daniel searched for only one. Subject, Leora of the Hollow Moons. He opened it. His breath caught in his throat. The truth was worse than she had said. She wasn't a warrior. She was a seer, a royal oracle of her people. Her visions weren't dreams. They were warnings. Her last prophecy was about a great silence, a collapse of galactic communication, systems going dark one by one. The council laughed, until it started happening. 3 star systems had already gone offline, unexplained, vanished. Instead of listening, they captured her. They silenced her, and they lied. In the records, they called her a bioweapon to justify her imprisonment. They erased her name, her titles, her visions. They feared her words more than her powers. Daniel's hand shook. He downloaded everything to a secret drive and hid it inside his boot. As he turned to leave, he felt it. A shift in the room, like a whisper that wasn't sound. Then came the voice. "You were not supposed to see that." Daniel spun around. A tall alien figure stood in the shadows, face half covered in a black mask. No rank, no name, just eyes like burning ice. "Who are you?" Daniel asked, heart pounding. "Someone who still believes in control," the figure said. "You've made her remember too much. She deserves to remember." The figure tilted its head. "Then you'll both be erased together." The alien raised a hand, but Daniel was already gone, slipping out through a maintenance vent, running faster than he ever had before. He didn't stop until he reached her. Leora looked up as Daniel entered her chamber, his chest heaving, blood on his lip from a cut he didn't remember getting. "They know," he said. "They're coming." Her eyes narrowed. She reached through the soft force field and touched his wound. Her glow moved across his skin, and the cut vanished. "Then we go tonight," she said. Daniel nodded, breath still ragged. "I have the files. The truth about what they did to you. We can show the galaxy. The galaxy may not care, she replied. But I do. She knelt and traced lines on the ground again. The escape path. Down 7 levels, through an abandoned fuel shaft, into the forgotten tunnels below the prison. They think the tunnels are dead, she said. But I felt them. They still breathe. Daniel nodded. When do we move? She looked up, eyes glowing gold again. Now. They moved like shadows. Daniel wore a stolen guard suit. Leora moved through hallways without making a sound. Alarms didn't trigger near her. Cameras glitched as she passed. She was bending the prison around them, quietly, carefully, like it was made of mist. But they weren't alone. Far above, in the orbiting ship, the masked commander received a ping. They've entered Section Gamma 9, an officer said. Seal it, the commander ordered. Flood the tunnels with sleep gas. And send the hounds. Daniel and Leora reached the lower shaft just as the gas vents hissed open. Daniel fell first, his body going limp, mind spinning. Leora grabbed him before he hit the floor. She dragged him into the side tunnel, her globe now burning hot white. Her body trembled. The gas didn't touch her, but using her energy in this place, this deep, was dangerous. Forbidden. But she didn't care. She placed her hands on Daniel's head and whispered something ancient. His breath came back. Slow, steady. His eyes opened. You saved me, he said. You saved me first, she replied. Then they heard it. Metal claws on stone. They came, creatures built in the dark, eyes glowing red, no soul inside them. The Council's secret hounds. Run, she said. But Daniel didn't. He stood beside her. Together. She smiled, her teeth sharp now, her hair lifting with energy. Then watch, human, she said. Watch what happens when the caged stop begging. And start fighting. Her body lit up, and the tunnel exploded in light. They tried to break her again. The world shook with her scream. Not a scream of pain. Not a scream of fear. It was a scream of rage. Leora's light exploded through the tunnel, burning like a star trapped in a storm. The hounds, the Council's deadly machines, froze mid-leap, blinded by the sudden flare. Their metal bodies melted mid-air, twisted, and collapsed into glowing ash before they could even touch her. Daniel watched with wide eyes, unable to move. The force that poured from her was not magic. It was not science. It was something older, something wild, something that had been caged too long. And now it was free. Leora turned to him, her breath sharp, glow flickering. More will come, she said. Faster, stronger. Daniel stood up. His legs shook, but he nodded. Then we keep going. They raced through the tunnel. Walls blurred. Alarms blared from above. The prison's command systems were panicking. Doors locking. Lights flashing. Sirens screaming across all levels. Somewhere, deep in the control room, a voice shouted, "She's no longer contained. Send the suppressors." The suppressors weren't guards. They were worse. In the dark halls, the air grew colder. Daniel and Leora reached the forgotten fuel shaft. They climbed slowly, their hands gripping old metal rungs. Above them, the exit shimmered like freedom. But when they reached the top, they weren't alone. 6 tall figures stood waiting. Pale armor, black visors, no faces. The suppressors. By order of the Council, one of them said, "You are to be neutralized." Leora stepped forward. "You mean to destroy me?" "We mean to erase the virus." The voice replied, "Before it spreads." Daniel looked around. No weapons, no exits, just a narrow bridge behind them and death in front. "Leora," he said quietly, "we can find another way." But she shook her head. "They want to hurt you," she whispered. "They always did, because they think you made me feel again." She looked at the suppressors. Her voice was like thunder wrapped in silk. "You want your weapon back. Then come and take it. They moved. Fast, brutal, efficient. Daniel jumped back as one swung a shock blade toward him. Leora blurred between them, her arms glowing, deflecting each strike with bursts of invisible force. 2 suppressors flew into the walls, crushed. The others adjusted. Their suits shimmered, adapting to her energy. They struck again. Leora staggered. Daniel screamed her name. She looked at him, her body flickering, and said one word: "Run." He didn't. Instead, he picked up a fallen weapon, a council blade humming with plasma. He stood by her side, clumsy but firm. "You said we escape together," he said. "So we fight together." Something in her broke, not with pain, with pride. She turned back to the suppressors and let her glow collapse inward. They didn't expect that. Suddenly, it wasn't light bursting from her, but darkness, silent, powerful, pulling their energy away like water in a drain. 3 suppressors dropped instantly, their suits flickering out. One tried to run. Too late. Then silence. Leora fell to her knees. Her glow was gone. Daniel rushed to her. "Leora." "I'm still here," she said weakly, "but they drained too much." He held her. Her skin felt cold. Her heartbeat, slow but still fighting. From the corner of the shaft, a voice echoed. Cold, cruel, familiar. How touching. Daniel looked up. A new figure stepped into view. Not armored, not masked. A council elder. Not just any, the one who ordered her capture. "You never understood her," he said to Daniel. "She was never meant to be loved. She was built to warn, not to care." He looked down at Leora. "But you made her soft." Daniel stood, fury boiling in his chest. "And you made her bleed." The elder raised a small device. "One push," he said, "and her mind resets. No memories, no name, no you." He pressed the button. Nothing happened. The elder frowned. Then he saw it. Leora was smiling. "I broke the chain," she whispered. The device in his hand cracked, crumbled, turned to dust. Then the walls shook again. This time, not because of her. From deep below, explosions echoed. Daniel's data drive had triggered its second program, a virus to unlock the prison's sealed sections. And the forgotten ones were waking up. Other prisoners, other silenced voices. One by one, cells opened, doors screamed. Old beings stepped into the light. Leora stood again, leaning on Daniel. "This is your cage now," she said to the elder. And somewhere deep in the prison, the roar of 1,000 freed prisoners answered. The girl they called a weapon. They had called her a weapon. They caged her, studied her, and whispered her name like a curse. But today, they ran from her. The prison was no longer under control. The systems were failing, alarms overlapping, cell doors hissing open one by one. Creatures from every corner of the galaxy, beings once feared, tortured, forgotten, now stepped into the hallways like ghosts returned from the dead. And at the heart of it all stood a glowing girl with silver hair and golden eyes. Leora. Beside her, Daniel held her hand tightly, helping her walk. She was weak, her body still trembling from the battle. But something burned inside her now. Something more than power. Purpose. "They'll send warships," Daniel said, looking at the ceiling as it rumbled. Leora nodded. "Then we leave before they arrive." But leaving wasn't easy. The council had locked every outer gate. The main hangar was sealed. And the central core, the brain of the prison, was about to self-destruct. "They'd rather destroy the prison," Leora whispered, "than let me go." Daniel stared at her. "Then we make sure they regret that choice." The plan was dangerous, simple, but deadly. The hangar could only be unlocked from the central core. Problem. The core was protected by layers of defense bots, fire grids, and last resort explosives. "Suicide," one prisoner said. But another, an old stone-skinned being with 6 arms, laughed. So was trying to cage her. He pointed at Leora. And they followed her. Leora didn't ask for loyalty, but it came. Prisoners who had only known pain and chains now walked behind her, eyes shining. They didn't follow a weapon. They followed hope. On the way to the core, Daniel saw more of the prison's horrors. Walls lined with tubes filled with sleeping minds. Rooms full of silence where sound itself had been killed. Alien children locked in cages too small to stand. And one chamber, empty, had his name on it. "They were going to take me too," Daniel whispered. Leora nodded slowly. "They wanted me to forget you, so they could break me again." But now, she was unbroken. And she had no mercy left for the ones who tried. They reached the core gates. 4 suppressor units stood guard, newer, faster, armed with plasma claws and neural blades. The air itself hummed with danger. Leora raised her hand. "I'll end this quickly." But Daniel stopped her. "You're still recovering. You'll burn yourself out." Leora looked at him and smiled softly. "If I must burn, let me burn for you." But then, to their surprise, others stepped forward. "No," said the stone-skinned alien. "Let us fight for you this time." One by one, prisoners lined up. A shapeshifter melted into smoke and slipped past the bots. A creature with glass-like skin reflected the bots' lasers back at them. A massive alien with fire in his blood charged forward with a war cry. It was chaos. Brutal, fast, and beautiful. By the end of it, all 4 suppressors lay in pieces, and the gate to the core stood open. Inside, a white pulsing cube hovered, beating like a heart. Leora stepped inside, alone. The moment she did, the cube lit up. Recognizing her. Identity confirmed, it said in a voice she hadn't heard in years. "Oracle of Hollow Moons. Status: silenced. Override." Leora took a deep breath. "Override," she whispered. The cube pulsed again. Voice restored. Command accepted. Gates unlocked. And across the prison, every lock snapped open. In the hangar, ancient ships roared back to life. Guards had already fled or hidden. Only a few council soldiers remained, and most dropped their weapons when they saw the uprising coming. Daniel helped Leora into a ship. Others climbed in behind them. Old allies, new believers, broken beings who now had one thing in common: freedom. As the ship lifted off, Leora looked back at the prison. "They made me think I was a danger," she said. "You're not," Daniel replied. She looked into his eyes. "I am, but only to those who try to take you from me." But just as the ship cleared the atmosphere, Daniel's monitor beeped. "Incoming transmission." He clicked it. A familiar masked figure appeared. Cold eyes, council uniform, no emotion. "You've made your choice," the figure said. "And now so have we." Behind him, fleets began to move. Not 1, not 10, but hundreds. Leora stared at the screen. "They're not chasing me," she said. "They're afraid of what I might tell the galaxy." Daniel swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Leora stood, her glow returning stronger than ever. "We show them," she said, "what happens when you teach a weapon. How to love." She belonged to no one. Until him. The galaxy was on fire. Not from war, not from explosions, but from the truth. Leora's story had spread faster than anyone could have predicted. Her voice, now free, restored, and raw, shook the foundations of the galaxy. The news of her captivity, her true purpose, and the lies of the Council leaked into every system, every corner of the galaxy. The once feared Oracle, once silenced, was speaking, and everyone was listening. And then came the warships. Hundreds, no, thousands of them, hovering like vultures, ready to strike. They didn't just want her. They wanted to erase her, to silence the one voice that threatened the power they had held for centuries. "They think they can burn me," Leora said, looking at the fleet through the ship's viewing window. But they can't burn what they never understood. Daniel stood beside her, his hand resting on the ship's controls. His eyes were steady, but his heart raced. And what happens if they don't listen? Then we make them listen, she replied, her voice filled with quiet rage. The fleet didn't hesitate. The moment they crossed into galactic space, they opened fire. Massive energy blasts sliced through the dark sky, each one designed to tear apart the ships of the rebellion that had joined Leora's cause. Her cause. But Leora didn't flinch. She stood at the ship's bow, her arms raised, her entire body glowing with power. Around her, the galaxy itself seemed to bend. The pulse of her energy cracked through the very air, surrounding them in a shield of pure force. "This is it," Daniel whispered. "The final fight." Leora's eyes never left the approaching fleet. "This isn't a fight," she said, her voice soft but fierce. "It's a reckoning." And then she moved. In the blink of an eye, the energy around her exploded outward, faster than light, stronger than any force in the galaxy. It didn't just push away the nearest ships. It shattered them. Their sleek metal frames disintegrated in an instant, turning into dust in the vacuum of space. The fleet was chaos. But Leora was still not finished. With every wave of her hand, every thought that passed through her mind, more ships were destroyed. The fleet began to fall apart in an uncontrollable spiral, their tactics useless against the unrelenting power of someone who had been broken, but never truly defeated. Daniel watched in awe and fear as she controlled the battlefield like a storm. Her light was blinding, her strength beyond any measure. And yet, she wasn't destroying everything. She was teaching them. "You were never meant to rule us," Leora called out, her voice reverberating through the communications channel to every ship, every soldier in the fleet. "You were meant to protect." The message was clear. The truth was clear. And the galaxy heard it. But the council was not finished yet. The command ship, the largest of them all, was still intact, its shields flickering as it fired back with everything it had left. On board, the council elder watched the destruction in silence, his eyes cold and calculating. "She is stronger than we thought," he said to his crew. "But we are not done." He turned to the weapon controls. "Fire everything." The ship's weapons powered up, releasing a wave of energy so powerful it could tear apart moons. But Leora, with a calm that terrified even Daniel, raised her hand again. And then, she turned the weapon back on itself. The pulse of energy fired toward the command ship, and in a single instant, the weapon disintegrated. The elder's ship crumbled, its shields failing as it was torn apart from within. There was no time for victory, no time for celebration. The battle was far from over. But this time, it wasn't Leora's power that would end it. It was her choice. "This ends now," she said to herself. The warships scattered, defeated, retreating into the deep black of space. Some exploded, others vanished into the dark, fleeing from the unstoppable force of the rebellion that had risen in her name. But Leora didn't pursue them. She didn't need to. Daniel watched her, his heart still pounding from the chaos, but now filled with a strange calm. "It's over," he said, as the last of the ships disappeared. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned to him. Her golden eyes were softer now, not filled with rage, but with something else, something deeper. "No," she said, her voice gentle. "It's not over. Not for me. Not for us." Daniel stepped closer. "But you." "I was never meant to rule," she said quietly. "I was meant to protect. You gave me that." He looked at her, confused. Leora nodded. "You saved me when they tried to break me. And you helped me remember who I was meant to be. Not a weapon, not a monster, but a protector." She touched his face, her fingers gentle against his skin. "You showed me that love is stronger than fear. And that is why I'll never let anyone take you from me." He held her hand, looking into her eyes. "And I'll never leave you, he said, "no matter what." Leora smiled, a real smile this time, her glow dimming just enough to show the warmth in her eyes. "Then we rebuild," she whispered. The galaxy had torn her apart, but now, together, they would heal it. The true battle had just begun, but this time, it wouldn't be fought in shadows. It would be fought in the light. The galaxy, once divided by fear and lies, now looked toward a new era, a new hope. Leora stood beside Daniel, not as a prisoner, not as a weapon, but as a leader. And together, they built a future where no one would ever be forgotten again. And the stars, they glowed brighter than ever before,